Zoe Johnson stared at the imposing brick building of Westlake High School from the passenger seat of her father's black SUV. The windows were tinted, hiding the famous driver from curious eyes. Her stomach twisted with nerves as students streamed through the front doors, laughing and talking in groups that had likely formed years ago. "You sure about this, kiddo?" Vin Diesel asked, his deep voice gentle as he looked at his 15-year-old adopted daughter. "You know you can still change your mind. We could find another tutor and keep homeschooling." Zoe shook her head, her dark curls bouncing with determination. She had been following her father around the world for film shoots since he had adopted her at age 7. After years of private tutors and online classes, she wanted something normal. "I need to do this, Dad," she said, adjusting the straps of her plain backpack. "I want to make real friends, not just talk to people online between your filming breaks." Vin nodded, understanding in his eyes. "Just remember what I taught you. Not just the physical stuff, but the mental game too. Real strength is knowing when not to use it." Zoe finished with a smile. It was his favorite saying, repeated during every training session in their home gym. "Call me if you need anything. I mean it, anything at all." Zoe leaned over and hugged him, breathing in the familiar scent of his cologne. "I'll be fine. No one even knows who you are here." That was the plan. She had registered under her legal name, Zoe Johnson. No connection to her famous father, no special treatment, just a normal high school experience. As she walked toward the school entrance, Zoe felt eyes on her. She was used to being watched. Being a black girl with a famous white father drew attention, but this felt different. These stares were evaluating her as a newcomer, not as a celebrity's daughter. "You must be the new student," a woman with a clipboard said, intercepting her at the door. "I'm Ms. Alvarez, student coordinator. Welcome to Westlake. Let me show you to the office for your schedule." The hallways buzzed with energy as students rushed to lockers and morning classes. Zoe followed Ms. Alvarez, trying not to look overwhelmed. Her regular training with her father had made her physically strong, but nothing had prepared her for the social maze of high school. In the office, she received her class schedule and a map of the school. As she studied it, someone tapped her shoulder. "Need help finding your way around?" asked a girl with warm brown eyes and a friendly smile. "I'm Olivia Martinez, student ambassador, which basically means I help new kids not get lost. Zoe Johnson. And yes, I could use some help. Let me see your schedule." Olivia glanced at the paper. "Hey, we have history and lunch together. Come on, I'll show you to your first class." As they walked, Olivia pointed out important landmarks: the cafeteria, the gym, the library. Zoe relaxed slightly, grateful for the friendly face. "So where did you move from?" Olivia asked. Zoe had practiced this answer. "All over, really. My dad travels for work, so we move a lot. I've been homeschooled until now." "That sounds amazing. What does your dad do?" Before Zoe could answer with her prepared story about her father being in international business, a tall boy with sandy blonde hair stepped directly into their path. 2 other boys flanked him, both wearing the same red and white Letterman jackets. "New. Meet Martinez?" the tall boy asked, his eyes scanning Zoe from head to toe. Olivia's smile faded. "Back off, Cody. I'm showing Zoe around." "How nice of you," Cody said, his voice dripping with fake sweetness. He turned to Zoe. "Word of advice, new girl. Choose your friends carefully. Some people will bring your status down." His eyes flicked dismissively to Olivia. Years of watching. Her father deal with difficult people on film sets had taught Zoe how to handle bullies. She straightened her shoulders and met his gaze. "Thanks for the advice. I think I've already figured out who to avoid." Cody's eyebrows shot up, surprised, at her response. Before he could reply, the bell rang, sending students scurrying to classrooms. "That's Cody Phillips," Olivia explained as they hurried down the hall. "Self-appointed king of Westlake and professional jerk. His dad is some big-shot lawyer, so he thinks rules don't apply to him." Zoe's first class was advanced physics. The teacher, Mr. Willis, a thin man with glasses perched on his nose, introduced her to the class. "We have a new student joining us. Zoe Johnson has quite impressive test scores." I expect you all to make her feel welcome. Zoe slid into an empty seat near the middle of the room, feeling eyes on her. She noticed Cody sitting 2 rows away, staring at her with narrowed eyes. She looked away, focusing on Mr. Willis as he began explaining the day's lesson on momentum and force, concepts her father had often demonstrated practically during their training sessions. When Mr. Willis asked a complex question about calculating impact force, Zoe's hand shot up automatically. The room fell silent as she explained the answer clearly, drawing on examples she had witnessed on her father's stunt sets. "Excellent explanation, Ms. Johnson," Mr. Willis said, looking impressed. "It seems our new student has a solid grasp of physics in the real world." From the corner of her eye, Zoe saw Cody's face darken. He had half raised his hand but lowered it when she started speaking. The rest of the morning passed in a blur of new faces and information. By lunchtime, Zoe felt drained from the constant social navigation. She found Olivia in the cafeteria, who waved her over to a table with 2 other girls. "Everyone, this is Zoe," Olivia announced. "Zoe, meet Lisa and Diana." Lunch conversation flowed around topics Zoe knew little about: school gossip, local hangouts, upcoming school events. She ate quietly, nodding and smiling at appropriate moments. "So what do your parents do?" Lisa asked between bites of pizza. Before Zoe could answer, a commotion broke out across the cafeteria. Cody had knocked over a smaller boy's lunch tray, sending food splattering across the floor. "Maybe watch where you're going next time, dork," Cody laughed as the boy scrambled to clean up the mess. Zoe felt her muscles tense, the way they did before sparring with her father. She started to stand, but Olivia grabbed her wrist. "Don't," Olivia warned. "Getting involved with Cody only makes things worse." Reluctantly, Zoe sat back down, but her eyes followed Cody as he high-fived his friends and strutted away from the mess he'd created. That evening, Zoe emptied her backpack on the kitchen counter while her father prepared dinner. The smell of his famous protein-packed pasta sauce filled their rental house. "How was it?" Vin asked, stirring the sauce with one hand while checking his phone with the other. "Different," Zoe said honestly. "Louder than I expected. More complicated." Vin looked up from his phone, studying her face. "Anyone give you trouble?" Zoe thought of Cody Phillips but shook her head. "Nothing I can't handle." "That's my girl," Vin smiled. "But remember, I know, Dad. Just because I can handle something doesn't mean I have to." After dinner, they moved to the home gym in the converted garage. This was their ritual, training together whenever they were in one place. As they circled each other on the mats, Zoe felt the day's tension melting away, replaced by the familiar rhythm of movement and breath her father had taught her. What she didn't tell him was how she had already marked Cody Phillips as a potential problem, how his eyes had followed her with calculation when she answered questions in class, how he had tested boundaries with that boy in the cafeteria. Zoe blocked a slow punch from her father, countering with a sweep he easily avoided. She would handle Westlake High School herself. She was Vin Diesel's daughter after all, even if no one else knew it yet. The next 2 weeks at Westlake High became a careful dance for Zoe. She excelled in her classes, especially science and math, earning praise from teachers that made Cody Phillips glare at her from across rooms. Each day, his looks grew darker. Tuesday morning, Zoe opened her locker to find her books had been rearranged. Nothing was missing, but someone had been there. She looked around the crowded hallway, catching Cody watching her with a small smirk before he turned away. "He's marking you," Olivia said when Zoe told her about it at lunch. "That's how Cody starts. Little things first, to see if you'll react." "Why me?" Zoe asked, picking at her sandwich. "I haven't done anything to him." Lisa, who had become part of their regular lunch group, snorted. "You embarrassed him in physics by knowing more than him. Cody's supposed to be the smart jock. His whole thing is being good at sports and grades." Diana nodded. "Plus, you didn't seem scared of him that first day. Cody expects new kids to respect his power right away." Zoe considered this. Her father had taught her about people who used fear as a weapon. "Bullies need your fear more than you need their approval," he would say during their training sessions. The memory made her stand straighter. Well, he's wasting his time with me, she said. Later that day, Zoe walked into chemistry class and froze. On the whiteboard was a new seating chart. Her assigned lab partner was Cody Phillips. "Don't look so thrilled," Cody said as she set her books on their shared table. "Trust me, this wasn't my idea either." Mr. Daniels, the chemistry teacher, clapped his hands. "Today we're starting our unit on chemical reactions. You and your partner will design and conduct an experiment showing reaction rates under different conditions." Zoe tried to focus on the assignment, but Cody made it difficult. He leaned back in his chair, making her do most of the planning. "This won't work," she said, pointing to his suggestion of using extremely hot water. "We need controlled variables, not just the most dramatic reaction." Cody's face reddened. "Oh, because you know everything, right? Little Miss Perfect." "I just want a good grade," Zoe replied evenly, not rising to his bait. "Fine, have it your way." He pushed the planning sheet toward her. The next day, they set up their experiment. Everything was ready. Beakers arranged with different concentrations, thermometers in place, data sheets prepared. Zoe had done most of the work while Cody pretended to help. Mr. Daniels walked around the room, checking each group's setup. "Nice work, Johnson and Phillips," he said, making a note on his clipboard. As soon as the teacher moved to the next table, Cody bumped Zoe with his shoulder, reaching past her. "Let me check something," he muttered. The class began their experiments. Zoe carefully measured and mixed solutions, recording results while Cody reluctantly took readings when she asked. Everything was going well until their final mixture. As Zoe prepared to add the last compound, she noticed something wrong. The measurements had changed from what they had planned. Before she could stop, the chemicals combined with a violent hiss and a small explosion of foam that spilled across the table, soaking her notes and splashing her shirt. Students jumped back. Mr. Daniels rushed over with a neutralizing solution. "What happened?" he demanded. "I don't know," Zoe said honestly, looking at the ruined experiment. "The proportions were wrong." "You must have measured incorrectly," Cody said, his face a mask of fake concern, but his eyes held a glint of satisfaction. Zoe knew then that he had changed the measurements when he checked something earlier. But she had no proof, and accusing him would only make things worse. "Accidents happen," Mr. Daniels said with a sigh. "Clean this up and you can redo the experiment tomorrow during lunch period." After class, Olivia handed Zoe a spare shirt from her gym locker. "He did that on purpose, didn't he?" she asked as Zoe changed in the bathroom. "Yes," Zoe admitted, "but I can't prove it. You should report him anyway. This has gone too far." Zoe shook her head. "That's what he wants. If I report him without proof, I look weak and whiny." "So what's your plan? Just let him keep messing with you?" Zoe thought of her training with her father, how he taught her that sometimes victory came from patience. For now, yes, he'll make a mistake eventually. That evening, Zoe hit the punching bag in their home gym harder than usual. Her father noticed. "Rough day?" he asked, holding the bag steady as she landed a combination of strikes. "Nothing serious," she said between punches. "Just a lab partner who doesn't like me." Vin studied his daughter's face. "This lab partner wouldn't happen to be giving you a hard time, would they?" Zoe paused, wiping sweat from her forehead. "Nothing I can't handle." "I know you can handle yourself, Zoe. That's not what I'm asking," she sighed. "There's this boy, Cody. He's used to being the best at everything. He doesn't like that I'm good at science." "So he's jealous," Vin nodded. "And he's trying to knock you down a peg." "He ruined our experiment today. Made me look bad." Vin considered this. "You know, on set, I've dealt with people who tried to sabotage scenes because they were threatened by me." "What did you do?" Zoe asked. "I outlasted them. Did my job so well they couldn't ignore it. But most importantly, I never let them see me sweat." He tapped her shoulder. "The strongest response isn't always a punch. Sometimes it's standing your ground and shining anyway." Zoe smiled. "Is that from one of your movies?" "Maybe," he laughed. "But it's still true." They moved to sparring practice, flowing through combat forms that Zoe had been learning since she was 8. The familiar movements centered her, washing away the stress of the day. "By the way," Vin said as they finished, "I got an offer today. New action film. The director wants to shoot in New Zealand for 6 months. Zoe froze. "When would we leave?" "That's the thing," he said, toweling off. "I was thinking maybe I'd go alone this time. Let you finish the school year here, Nancy could stay with you." Nancy was their longtime housekeeper who often helped when Vin was filming. "You'd let me stay?" Zoe couldn't hide her surprise. "Only if you want to," he said, "and only if things are going well here. If this Cody kid becomes a real problem, all bets are off." Zoe hugged her father, his solid presence reassuring. "Thanks, Dad. I want to stay." "We'll see," he said, not fully committing. "Let's give it another few weeks." The next day at school, rumors had already spread about the chemistry incident. Some people said Zoe had messed up the experiment on purpose to get attention. Others said Cody had sabotaged it because she wouldn't let him copy her work. When Zoe walked into the cafeteria, conversations hushed momentarily before resuming. She spotted Cody with his friends, watching her and laughing. Instead of avoiding him, she walked directly past their table, head high, not giving him the satisfaction of seeing her discomfort. "Someone's feeling brave today," Cody called out as she passed. Zoe turned, remembering her father's words. She gave Cody a calm smile. Not brave, just unbothered. She continued to her usual table, feeling his stare drilling into her back. She had stood her ground without throwing a punch, just as her father had taught her. But something told her that Cody Phillips wasn't finished testing her limits. The real confrontation was still coming. A week after the chemistry incident, the situation with Cody grew worse. What started as small acts of sabotage had become open hostility. In the hallways, he would bump into Zoe's shoulder. In the cafeteria, he would make loud comments about her whenever she walked by. He even started a rumor that she cheated on tests, which thankfully no one believed given her obvious intelligence. Through it all, Zoe maintained her composure, remembering her father's advice to never let them see her sweat. But inside, her frustration was building. On Friday morning, the results of the monthly physics competition were posted on the classroom door. Mr. Willis had challenged students to design a theoretical device that could protect an egg from a 30-foot drop using only specified materials. Zoe had worked hard on her submission, drawing on knowledge she'd gained watching stunt coordinators work with her father. She had designed a parachute system with cushioned landing that distributed impact forces evenly, principles she'd seen in action on movie sets. A crowd gathered around the posted results. Whispers rippled through the students, and several glanced at Zoe with newfound respect. When she finally made her way to the front, she saw why. Her name was at the top of the list. Second place went to Cody Phillips. "This is stupid," Cody said loudly from behind her. She probably got help from someone. No way she figured that out herself. Zoe turned to face him. "Why is it so hard to believe I might actually be good at physics?" "Because you just showed up here out of nowhere," he snapped. "Nobody gets that good from homeschooling." Mr. Willis appeared in the doorway. "Actually, Mr. Phillips, Ms. Johnson's solution demonstrated advanced understanding of impact force distribution that goes beyond our curriculum. If anything, I'd say her unique educational background has given her advantages." Cody's face flushed, red. He stormed into the classroom, knocking Zoe's books from her hands as he passed. Papers scattered across the hallway floor. "Sorry about that," Mr. Willis said as he helped Zoe gather her things. "Some students struggle with not being the best." Zoe nodded, collecting her papers. "It's okay. I'm used to it." But she wasn't okay. The constant targeting was becoming tiring, and Zoe found herself looking forward to their evening training sessions more than ever. In the gym with her father, things made sense. There were clear rules, respect, and when you got knocked down, you got back up without making excuses. That afternoon during lunch period, Zoe sat with Olivia and their friends, trying to enjoy her sandwich despite feeling Cody's glare from across the cafeteria. I heard you destroyed him in the physics competition, Diana said with admiration. No wonder he's extra mad today. I didn't do it to upset him, Zoe replied. I just did my best work. That's what drives him crazy, Lisa added. You're not even trying to compete with him, but you're winning anyway. Olivia nudged Zoe. Heads up, trouble incoming. Cody was walking toward their table, flanked by two of his friends. His expression was stormy. So the physics genius thinks she's better than everyone, Cody announced loudly as he approached. Other students turned to watch. Must be nice to have all that private tutor money. Zoe kept her voice steady. I worked hard on that project just like everyone else. Right, Cody sneered. Worked hard copying designs from the internet, probably. That's not true, Zoe said, standing up to face him. She was shorter than Cody by several inches, but she stood firm, just as her father had taught her. Prove it, Cody challenged. Explain your design right now without your notes. Let's see how much you really understand. Students had gathered around, sensing drama. Zoe felt pressure mounting, but kept her breathing even as she launched into an explanation of her design, breaking down the physics principles clearly. Her voice grew stronger as she spoke, confident in her knowledge. Midway through her explanation, Cody's expression changed from smugness to growing anger. He hadn't expected her to actually know her stuff. When she finished, several students nodded, impressed. Whatever, Cody muttered, clearly having lost this round. As he turned to leave, he swiped his arm across the table, knocking Zoe's lunch tray to the floor. Oops, he said with fake innocence. Guess you should watch where you put your things. Zoe looked at her food splattered across the floor. A lunch monitor was headed their way, drawn by the commotion. That's enough, Olivia said, standing up beside Zoe. Just because you can't handle losing, stay out of this, Cody snapped. No, Zoe said quietly but firmly. This is between you and me, Cody. Leave my friends alone. Something in her tone made Cody pause. For a brief moment, their eyes locked in silent challenge. You think you're so tough, he said, his voice dropping. Meet me by the lockers after the final bell. We'll settle this without teachers around. Before Zoe could respond, the lunch monitor arrived. What's going on here? Just an accident, Cody said with a fake smile. Right, Zoe? Zoe hesitated. She could report him now, but that would only postpone the inevitable confrontation. And deep down, a part of her was tired of avoiding this conflict. Right, she finally said. An accident. After the lunch monitor helped clean up and left, Olivia grabbed Zoe's arm. You're not seriously going to meet him, are you? That's exactly what he wants. I'm not afraid of him, Zoe said. This isn't about fear. He's setting you up. If you fight him, you could get suspended. If you don't show, he'll call you a coward. Zoe considered this. Her father had always emphasized that fighting should be the last resort. There's always a smarter way to win, he would say. I'll go, Zoe decided, but not to fight, to end this. The rest of the day dragged on. In her last class, Zoe found it hard to focus as she planned what to say to Cody. She wasn't naive enough to think words alone would solve the problem, but she had to try before things escalated further. When the final bell rang, students rushed to their lockers, eager to start the weekend. Zoe moved purposefully through the thinning crowds to the row of lockers where Cody had indicated. Her heart beat faster, but her steps were steady. Cody was waiting with 3 of his friends. His posture shifted when he saw her approaching alone. Didn't think you'd actually show, he said, a hint of surprise in his voice. I said I would, Zoe replied simply. She stopped a few feet away from him. But I'm not here to fight you, Cody. Then why come? He stepped closer, trying to intimidate her, with his height, to ask why. Why are you so determined to make my life difficult? What have I actually done to you? The question seemed to catch him off guard. For a moment, he looked almost confused. You think you can just walk in here and take over? He said, but his voice had lost some of its edge. I worked for 3 years to be the top student in science. I'm not trying to take anything from you, Zoe said. There's room for more than one smart person at this school. Cody scoffed. That's not how it works here. Maybe it should. Zoe held his gaze. This rivalry you've created is pointless. Easy for you to say when you're winning. Zoe took a deep breath. If it matters that much to you, take the top spot. I just want to learn and be left alone. Something flashed in Cody's eyes, perhaps respect or confusion at her lack of desire for status. Before he could respond, one of his friends nudged him. Don't let her talk her way out of this, the friend urged. She's been making you look bad for weeks. Cody's moment of hesitation vanished. His face hardened again as he looked at Zoe. Nice try, he said, stepping forward and shoving her shoulder. Zoe maintained her balance easily, sliding her foot back to absorb the push just as she'd practiced countless times with her father. She didn't push back. I'm not going to fight you, she said calmly. You don't have a choice, Cody replied, grabbing her arm roughly. The moment Cody grabbed Zoe's arm, years of training with her father kicked in. Without thinking, she shifted her weight and used his own momentum against him. She didn't throw a punch or even push him. Instead, she simply redirected his force, twisting slightly while releasing the pressure point in her arm. The result looked almost like magic to onlookers. 1 second Cody was grabbing her, the next he was stumbling forward, off balance, as Zoe stepped smoothly to the side. Cody caught himself against a locker, his eyes wide with surprise. His friends looked equally shocked. How did you? He started, but anger quickly replaced his confusion. You're going to pay for that. He lunged at her again, this time swinging wildly. Zoe ducked under his arm and sidestepped, letting him crash into the lockers behind her. The metal doors rattled loudly in the empty hallway. Stop this, Zoe said firmly. I don't want to fight you. Too late, Cody growled, charging again. This time Zoe planted her feet and used a simple block her father had taught her, deflecting Cody's momentum toward the floor. He stumbled but didn't fall. His face was red with rage and embarrassment. His friends watched with shocked expressions, clearly not used to seeing Cody outmatched. What is going on here? A sharp voice rang out. Principal Warren stood at the end of the hall, his face stern as he surveyed the scene. Behind him was Ms. Alvarez, the student coordinator who had greeted Zoe on her first day. Ms. Johnson, Mr. Phillips, explain yourselves, Principal Warren demanded. She attacked me, Cody said quickly. I was just talking to her and she went crazy. Zoe opened her mouth to defend herself, but Ms. Alvarez held up a hand. Save it. The security cameras caught everything. She pointed to a small camera in the corner of the hallway. My office. Both of you. Now. In the principal's office, Zoe sat quietly while Principal Warren called her emergency contact number. She had listed her father, but given his name as Vincent Johnson, not his full famous name. Now she wondered how long her cover would last. Across the room, Cody sat with his arms crossed, occasionally shooting her dirty looks. His parents had been called too. Your father is on his way, Ms. Alvarez told Zoe. He sounded concerned. Zoe could imagine. Her father was protective and she'd never been in trouble at school before. Still, she wasn't worried about his reaction. He would understand once she explained. 20 minutes later, raised voices in the hallway announced the arrival of Cody's parents. A tall man in an expensive suit burst into the office, followed by a slim woman with perfectly styled hair. This is outrageous, the man said without preamble. My son being attacked and then treated like he's the problem. Mr. Phillips, Principal, Warren said calmly. Please have a seat. We need to discuss what happened. There's nothing to discuss, Mr. Phillips said. Cody told me everything on the phone. This girl attacked him unprovoked. I want her suspended immediately. Actually, Ms. Alvarez said, turning her computer monitor toward them, the security footage tells a different story. On the screen played a silent video clearly showing Cody pushing Zoe first, then grabbing her arm when she didn't react. It showed her defensive moves, how she avoided hurting him while protecting herself. Mr. Phillips's face tightened. That doesn't show what happened before. She must have provoked him. Dad, Cody started, but his father silenced him with a look. A knock on the door interrupted them. Ms. Alvarez opened it, and Zoe's heart raced as her father stepped into the room. Even in casual clothes with a baseball cap pulled low, Vin Diesel's presence was unmistakable. His broad shoulders filled the doorway and his deep voice commanded attention. "Sorry for the delay." "Traffic," he said simply. His eyes found Zoe first, checking that she was okay before turning to the principal. "Vincent Johnson, Zoe's father." The room fell silent. Recognition dawned on the faces of everyone present. Cody's mouth dropped open. His mother gasped softly. "You're—" Cody's father began, then stopped, clearly recalibrating his approach. Principal Warren recovered first, extending his hand. "Thank you for coming, Mr. Johnson. We were just reviewing the situation." Vin nodded, taking a seat beside Zoe. He placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "What happened, kiddo?" Before Zoe could answer, Ms. Alvarez spoke up. "Perhaps we should show the footage again." They watched the security video once more. Vin's expression remained neutral, but Zoe felt his hand tighten slightly on her shoulder when Cody grabbed her arm. "I see," Vin said when the video ended. He turned to Zoe. "You used the redirection technique. Clean execution." "I tried to talk first," Zoe said quietly. He wouldn't listen. Principal Warren cleared his throat. According to several witness statements, this incident was preceded by weeks of harassment from Mr. Phillips toward Ms. Johnson. The security footage clearly shows Mr. Phillips initiated physical contact today. "My son would never harass anyone," Mrs. Phillips finally spoke, her voice tight. "He's a model student." "With all due respect, Mrs. Phillips," Ms. Alvarez said, "multiple students have reported seeing your son deliberately sabotage Zoe's chemistry experiment, knock her books down, and verbally taunt her." Mr. Phillips straightened his tie. "Kids will be kids, that's hardly harassment. If she can't handle normal school dynamics, perhaps she should return to being homeschooled." Zoe felt her father's energy shift beside her. When he spoke, his voice was controlled but carried the same intensity he brought to his most serious film roles. "My daughter was raised to stand up for herself while showing restraint," Vin said, removing his cap and meeting Mr. Phillips's gaze directly. "She could have hurt your son today. She chose not to." Cody stared at Vin. The reality of who Zoe's father was finally sinking in. "You're Vin Diesel," he said, his voice small. "Yes," Vin acknowledged simply. "And Zoe has been training with me since she was 8. Mr. Phillips, your son is fortunate that she chose to defend rather than attack." The shift in the room was palpable. Mr. Phillips, who had been so aggressive moments before, now looked uncertain. Principal Warren took control of the meeting again. "Based on the evidence, Cody will receive a 3-day suspension for instigating physical violence and a pattern of harassment. Zoe, while you were defending yourself, we have a zero-tolerance policy for physical confrontations. You'll receive after-school detention on Monday." "That's not fair," Cody protested. "You can't suspend me just because her dad is famous." "This has nothing to do with who her father is," Principal Warren said firmly. "This is about your behavior over the past few weeks, culminating in today's incident. The punishment stands, Mr. Phillips stood abruptly. "This isn't over. Come on, Cody." As they left, Cody glanced back at Zoe. The anger in his eyes had been replaced by something more complex: embarrassment, confusion, and a hint of respect. When they were gone, Principal Warren sighed. "Ms. Johnson, I apologize that your experience at Westlake has been marred by this situation." Vin looked at his daughter. "Do you want to switch schools? Just say the word." Zoe shook her head. "No. I have friends here now, and I think things might be different after today." Vin smiled at her, pride evident in his eyes. "That's my girl." As they walked to the parking lot, whispers and stares followed them. Students who had stayed late for activities did double takes as they recognized Vin Diesel walking through their school. By Monday, everyone would know who Zoe really was. "So much for keeping a low profile," Zoe said as they reached the car. "Sometimes the truth is better than hiding," Vin replied, opening her door. "You handled yourself well today. Used what I taught you." I didn't want to hurt him. That's what makes you stronger than him. Vin started the engine. Now, how about we pick up some Victory ice cream on the way home? Zoe smiled, realizing that while her secret was out, a weight had been lifted. Monday would bring new challenges, but she was ready to face them. Not as Vin Diesel's secret daughter, but as Zoe Johnson who could stand on her own. By Monday morning, the news that Zoe Johnson was Vin Diesel's daughter had spread throughout Westlake High School. As she walked through the main entrance, conversations paused and heads turned. Some students pulled out phones, trying to take discreet photos. Others whispered behind their hands. Zoe had expected this, but it still felt strange. For years, she had managed to keep a low profile despite her father's fame. Now in just one weekend, her identity had become public knowledge. Olivia met her at her locker, loyal as always. "So, you're basically a celebrity now," she said, watching the stares from passing students. "I'm still just me," Zoe replied, organizing her books. "A just you who can take down the school bully and whose dad is one of the biggest action stars in the world." Olivia grinned. "The video of you and Cody is all over social media. Someone recorded it from their phone after watching the security footage in the office." Zoe groaned. "Great. That's just what I needed." "Hey, at least everyone knows you didn't start it. And your moves were seriously impressive." The morning classes passed in a blur of curious glances and whispered comments. Some teachers treated her differently now, with extra attention that made Zoe uncomfortable. Others, like Mr. Willis, simply nodded at her with the same respect as before. At lunch, Zoe had just sat down with Olivia, Lisa, and Diana when a freshman girl approached their table hesitantly. "Excuse me," the girl said, clutching her lunch tray. "Are you really Vin Diesel's daughter?" Before Zoe could answer, Lisa stepped in. "She's eating lunch right now. Fan club meets after school." The girl blushed and hurried away. "Thanks," Zoe said, "but you didn't have to be mean." "If we don't establish boundaries now, you'll never have peace," Lisa replied. "Trust me, my cousin dates a minor celebrity. It never stops unless you make it stop." Zoe nodded, grateful for her friend's protection. As they ate, she noticed the empty table where Cody and his friends usually sat. His 3-day suspension had started today. After school, Zoe reported to detention as required. The room was mostly empty except for 2 other students who kept stealing glances at her. She focused on her homework, trying to ignore them. Halfway through detention, the door opened. Cody Phillips walked in, looking uncomfortable. "Mr. Phillips," the supervising teacher said with surprise. "Your suspension was reduced," Cody finished. "Principal Warren said I could serve detention instead if I—" He paused, looking at Zoe. "If I apologized and did community service." The teacher nodded. "Take a seat then." Cody hesitated, then sat at the desk beside Zoe. For several minutes, neither spoke. Zoe continued her math homework while Cody stared at his blank notebook. Finally, he turned to her. "Your dad really taught you all those moves?" Zoe looked up, surprised by the genuine curiosity in his voice. "Yes, we trained together almost every day." "That's pretty cool," Cody admitted. "I thought you were just some random smart kid. I had no idea." "Would it have mattered?" Zoe asked. "If you knew who my dad was from the beginning, would you have treated me differently?" Cody considered this, then shrugged. "Probably, but I shouldn't have. That's what my mom said all weekend." Zoe raised an eyebrow. "Your mom?" "Yeah, she was really mad about everything. Said I embarrassed the family and that I've been becoming someone she doesn't recognize." He looked down at his hands. "She made me watch videos about bullying and stuff." "Sounds terrible," Zoe said, but with a small smile to show she was teasing. Cody almost smiled back. "It was pretty bad, but maybe I needed it." He paused again. "I'm supposed to say I'm sorry, and I am. Not just because I have to be, but because, well, I was wrong." The simple admission hung in the air between them. Zoe hadn't expected such direct words from him. "I appreciate that," she said finally. "And I'm sorry, too, for embarrassing you." "You didn't. I embarrassed myself." Cody shook his head. Anyway, I'm doing this community service thing now, tutoring kids at the middle school in science. You'll be good at that, Zoe said honestly. You know your stuff. Cody looked surprised at the compliment. Thanks. Maybe you could give me some pointers sometime? About the teaching part, I mean. Sure, Zoe agreed, seeing a chance for peace. I helped my dad learn lines for years. Teaching isn't so different. They worked quietly for the rest of detention. It wasn't friendship, but it was a beginning. Over the next few weeks, life at Westlake found a new rhythm. The excitement about Zoe's famous father gradually faded as students got used to the idea. Occasionally, her father would pick her up from school, causing a fresh wave of excitement, but mostly things settled down. Cody kept his distance at first, but their interactions became more civil. Sometimes they would even discuss physics problems together after class. His friends seemed confused by the change, but followed his lead. One afternoon, Zoe arrived home to find her father in the kitchen with a stack of papers. "What's all this?" she asked, dropping her backpack on a chair. "Final details for the New Zealand film," Vin said. "They want me there next month for pre-production." Zoe felt a familiar mix of emotions, pride in her father's career, but sadness at the coming separation. "So you're going?" "That depends," he said, looking up at her. "How are things at school now? Be honest." Zoe considered the question. "Better. Different, but better." She told him about Cody's apology and the changes she'd seen in him. She described how she'd found her place with her friends and how she was even helping coach the junior self-defense club that Ms. Alvarez had started. Vin listened carefully, pride evident in his eyes. "Sounds like you've turned things around, like I always say. The true measure of a person is how they handle the hard times," Zoe finished with a smile. It was one of his lines from his third Fast and Furious movie. Exactly. He shuffled the Yauer papers. "So I've been thinking, Nancy will stay here with you while I'm gone. But during your spring break next month, how about you fly out and see the set? Some of the old crew has been asking about you." Zoe's face lit up. "Really? That would be awesome." "And," Vin continued, "I talked to your principal. He thinks it would be good for the school if I came in for their career day next week. Talk about the film industry. Maybe demonstrate some basic self-defense moves." "You're going to teach self-defense at my school?" Zoe couldn't believe it. "Only if you're okay with it. I don't want to embarrass you." Zoe thought about Cody and his friends, about Olivia and all the other students who might benefit from learning what her father had taught her. "I think it's a great idea," she said. The following week, Vin Diesel stood on the Westlake High School gymnasium stage before the entire student body. Beside him, Zoe demonstrated basic self-defense techniques as her father explained the principles of respect, restraint, and personal protection. In the front row, Cody Phillips watched attentively, occasionally asking thoughtful questions. After the presentation, he approached Zoe. "Your dad is even cooler in person," he said, "and you're pretty good at explaining this stuff." "Thanks," Zoe replied. "I had a good teacher." Cody hesitated, then asked, "Do you think I could join that self-defense club you're helping with? I want to learn the right way." Zoe smiled. "Everyone's welcome. That's the whole point." As they walked back to class together, Zoe realized that her father had been right all along. Real strength wasn't about fighting or winning. It was about turning enemies into allies, fear into respect, and challenges into opportunities for growth. She had come to Westlake looking for a normal high school experience. What she'd found instead was her own power to change her world for the better, one person at a time, starting with the school bully who had underestimated her.